People moving out, people moving in. Why? Because of the color of the skin. Run, run, but you sure can't hide. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Both for me and all set to free. Rap on, brother, rap on. The only person talking about love now, brother, is the...
Hi, how you doing? For those of you joining who aren't familiar, my name is Joseph J. Alexander. Some people call me JJ. You can too if you want. It's been a while since we've done an episode of White Heat. As I touched upon in my first episode of Catharsis, it's just because kind of hard nailing down co-hosts during recording times. So, and I don't really like doing these things solo, but here we are. So some people got their wish before the end of the year, another episode of White Heat, even though it's White Heat Redux. Noticed? New webcam. Don't pay attention to the clutter in the background. The wife is on a 10-day vacation and not home, so I am in the middle of reshuffling everything here. So, why did I decide to do an episode? Well, as many people know, there's a lot of morons in the internet wrestling community. And it's bad enough when those morons want to debate with someone like me, a 20-year veteran of the professional wrestling industry, about things regarding professional wrestling. Like I don't know anything about what I'm talking about when all they are known for is buying action figures. Because they ain't buying tickets, at least not for their favorite company. Anyways, so it has come to my attention. It's come to the attention of the wrestling internet zeitgeist in general. About two individuals in All Elite Wrestling currently. And a couple of other individuals on the periphery of it. So that's what I'm here to talk about today. So as many of you know, and bear with me because I have notes jotted on the side so I can keep going back and forth. A couple weeks ago, big controversy regarding Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks hasn't been seen on AEW programming for almost a year. He is not injured. People claim it's because he didn't want to work certain programs. Of course, he came out and said, no, that's not the matter at all. Ricky Starks appeared on a Game Changer wrestling event. Basically said, I'm not going to sit home and watch life go by, yada, yada. And that coupled with a podcast interview with GCW talent Effie, if you were unaware. Effie's a good person. I'll never say anything bad about Effie. He speaks his mind. Effie on a podcast talked about how it seemed like Dirty Pool that they were running the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York in January, in the beginning of January. And it was just announced, like within the same time period, that AEW would be doing Ring of Honor tapings there, including a Ring of Honor pay-per-view in the same venue at the end of December. And Effie made comments regarding, we can't operate at a net loss. I don't have a dad that pays me to stay away. Bunch of stuff that got stuck in Tony Khan's craw. So Tony Khan, being the petulant child that he is, and I can say that because I'm just a couple years older than him. Not a lot, just a couple. Tony Khan decided, well, then, fuck you. I'm pulling Ricky Starks from his GCW bookings. Which seemed like a twofold thing because not only was it punishing Game Changer Wrestling, but it was punishing Ricky Starks because he was taking those bookings because he's not being used on TV. On top of it, Ricky had been on a podcast interview with Chris Van Vliet, where he talked about certain things about how when there was security cameras leaked of him visiting Cody Rhodes at the Royal Rumble that year, and how they said, "Oh, that's it's a bad look," blah 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 blah, and basically it's just more proof that he's in the doghouse with Tony Khan, or with Tony Khan and the EVPs. So, Ricky Starks is pulled from GCW. Okay. All right. Maybe because he's going to get used on TV again? Well, it's been a couple weeks and he hasn't shown up on AEW. Unless he shows up tonight, because I'm recording this at 6 p.m. on a Wednesday. But I kind of doubt that'll happen. So, Ricky Starks is pulled. I have a barking dog in the other room. On top of it, Tony Khan, being a petulant child, decided that on a taping of Ring of Honor, where its champion appeared, Chris Jericho is the current Ring of Honor champion. He has literally never appeared. Hey, puppy. Calm down, puppy. You see the Titus? Titus, it's okay. Sorry, Buds. Titus, enough. Titus! Shh. Bear with me, folks. Anyways, so Chris Jericho actually appears on an episode of Ring of Honor, which he hasn't done at either time when he was champion before. He actually appears on the program, not just a pre-tape vignette. And basically puts out an open challenge, I guess, for his title match at the Hammerstein Ballroom at the end of December. Now, for those who are paying attention, the plan for Game Changer Wrestling was for Ricky Starks to have at least one match with Matt Cardona, who is an independent wrestler. He is not contracted anywhere. Well, lo and behold, who comes out to answer Chris Jericho's challenge but Matt Cardona. So this is just a slap in the face of Game Changer Wrestling, who is already going to suffer because the national wrestling company, no matter how shitty they're doing, but the national wrestling company, the company with a national television deal, is running the same venue as them 2 weeks before. But not only that, now they scooped half their main event. So why are people going to pay to see Matt Cardona again? And I mean, let's be honest. As much as people want to say, oh, Matt Cardona's Renaissance, blah, 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 I don't see it. I see a guy who's been able to bilk a lot of promoters out of a payday, but ultimately he's not that big of a draw. So now you've done that. And Ricky Starks is sitting in the cold with no booking, sitting, waiting out his contract. And then on top of it, Willie Mack, who is only on a per appearance deal with Ring of Honor, has been told in not so many words to not appear for GCW. Like, you're on a per appearance deal. Are they gonna pay you to be? Are they gonna put you on the Ring of Honor pay-per-view? Or are you gonna get a pay-per-view payday out of it? If that's the trade-off, okay, I can kind of see it. But this is dirty pool that's been happening too long with indie promoters, where they say, if you go work here, I'll never book you. Now, as a promoter, have I ever said that to a talent? Yes, I have. But there's been a caveat. It's been, if you go work for this promoter who is either the promoter is a criminal or a sex pest, or the company itself uses untrained workers, that's when I say I won't book you if you go work for them, just because it reflects badly on my product. So there's a caveat there. But in this case, you got one company that does internet pay-per-views. You've got another company that's doing pay-per-views. And to be honest, there's more people going to see Game Changer Wrestling than there are going to see Ring of Honor, because they have to beg people to stay for the Ring of Honor tapings when they tape Dynamite and Collision. And no one's paying to see Chris Jericho in 2024. No one. So yeah, it's a bad look. It's a bad look. Now Ricky Starks is sitting there. We don't know when his contract runs out. Supposedly it's sometime in 2025. Obviously, he's going to show interest in WWE because his friends are there. He's been known to be friends with Cody and CM Punk and Jay Cargill. And Ricky Starks is not a spring chicken. He's 36. So if he wants to get going, now's his time. And some people say, oh, well, he's sitting home. He's getting paid. Like, what does it matter? Okay, yes, he's sitting home and getting paid. However, in the time when you're sitting home and getting paid and not working, especially because they're pulling you from bookings now. Granted, okay, he's still working the House of Glory show that he's booked for. And okay, House of Glory shows are giant internet wrestling community super shows. That's what they're designed for. The old House of Glory doesn't exist anymore. The House of Glory that used guys like Ken Broadway and Hank Flanders and Smiley and stuff like that, it's not that House of Glory anymore. It's not where we had hungry students coming up to work for us in Chicopee and shining. We don't have that anymore. But whatever, it is what it is. At least he hasn't been pulled from that booking yet, which I doubt he will, because there's no reason to. Ricky Starks is sitting home. When you're sitting home and you're not in the ring during the week training, and you're not bumping, when you go back, bumping sucks again. That's what a lot of these 30-milers who get booked once every 2 months don't seem to understand is you get booked for this one company on every other show to work in front of 25 people, and you've done nothing in the meantime as far as ring work, as far as ring training. Then you wonder why you get hurt easier or you're so sore the next day or whatever. It's because you're that's when ring rust comes into factor. So here's Ricky Starks sitting here. Yeah, I mean, I hope he's being paid well. I'm assuming he is because Tony Khan's nothing but a money mark, and I guarantee he's overpaying everyone on a guaranteed contract, and I guarantee Ricky Starks is on a guaranteed contract. But he's not doing that well. And that sucks. That sucks for him because, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Ricky Starks, but I could definitely see WWE using him in NXT. I don't know about main roster. But, definitely, Oh, and also one other talent was told to not work Game Changer Wrestling, and that's AR Fox. Now, I know Fox. Fox is another guy who I wish hadn't signed an AEW contract because I know he signed a per diem deal or a per appearance deal, and he's hardly used. And granted, due to some past issues, Fox, under the Vince McMahon regime, AR Fox may not have been looked at by WWE, but he might be looked at under Paul Levesque. I don't know. There's certain things. However, let's just say with other people they have hired in recent times who have maybe a little bit of a sordid past, they got signed. They're being used. So there is more of a chance. And now AR Fox is sitting home with nothing to do. I mean, at least Fox, as the last I knew, is still helping out kids at school in Atlanta. Mr. Hughes' old school that Fox helps train at and still, I think he's still part of. When he's not up here because he's a Connecticut boy. But, yeah, it's just, it's misuse of talent. Who, if you're going to come out and say, we're going to let our talent work outside dates, and then you pull them from those outside dates, well, then what was the point in saying we're letting them work outside dates if you're going to keep pulling this shit? Because that's a double standard. You're still letting all these other talents go and work. You're letting them work Indies, you're letting them work Japan, you're letting them work Mexico. But then you're pulling these people who you're not using on TV. And that's just that's not a good look. Not a good look at all. Especially when it's companies that aren't televised. Like, I could understand about, like, if he showed up to do a couple of spots with TNA or something like that, or even MLW, because they have the internet, they have the YouTube show and everything. But they're not going to work for televised companies, so why are you pulling them? You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say we're going to let people work wherever they want and then pull this shit. Because what do you care if it's at risk of an injury if it's someone you haven't used in 11 months? You don't care. So that brings me to the second part of this. And it kind of sucks because I had some stuff bookmarked, but apparently posts on social media have now been deleted. But there is another person in All Elite Wrestling who is suffering almost the same fate, but there's a lot more to the story. That would be Rey Fenix, half of the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon's brother. We all know Pentagon is a free agent now officially. There is word that he is going to be signed with WWE. Rey Mysterio has been pushing for him for a long time. I see him there. Whether he goes to the main roster first, I'm not sure. I am going to be at the SmackDown the night before Saturday night's main event. So if he's the one to debut, that's great. But even if he does, I see him going down to NXT to just break bad habits first. Like after that initial pop. But Rey Fenix came out, and luckily I copied some of these to read. But Rey Fenix came out because, as everyone has come to know, or if you somehow do not know, Penta's contract is up. Rey Fenix had suffered some injuries, and one of the things Tony Khan said he would never do to talent is tack time onto the end of their contracts, because that's what people complained about WWE doing to Brody Lee, and people in WWE complained about doing to Mustafa Ali. If you remember, there was a Free Ali movement and all that shit because, So Fenix was injured, and when it comes time for his brother's contract to be up, Tony Khan says, no, I'm extending yours. And apparently extended through deep into next year. Penta took to Twitter and said, no one stays in a place where they received inhumane treatment. And he also replied to a post by journalist Chris Featherstone, who basically talked about things, and he said, you hit the nail on the head, something to that effect. And he also made a tweet saying, I needed a doctor and you didn't let me see one for a year, or something to that effect. So I'm going to get to this in tiers. First, the inhumane treatment part, because what's funny is all of these people, and this has been pointed out by many people on Twitter, the hypocrisy of people saying, oh, well, you're sitting home and getting paid. Oh, I wish I could sit home and get paid. But you were the same people saying free Ali, free Brody Lee. That's not how that works. That's not how that works at all. It's not how any of this works. You don't get to have your cake and eat it too. And then people want to talk about, before I get back to that, the inhumane treatment. By observing over the past few years, the way some foreign talents are treated in AEW, Fenix had a right to say that. Because one thing that popped into my mind that I guarantee has escaped a lot of other people was Konosuke Takeshita, when he actually signed full-time to AEW. He lived in Japan. He didn't speak a lot of English. He moved here, sight unseen. He moved into an apartment that was empty, no furniture, no electricity. Why? Because Tony Khan just cared about getting him here. He didn't care about his living situation. Tony Khan didn't figure, let's have our HR department help you out in finding a place. Get some basic furnishing in there, at least a bed and a couch to start. You know, make sure when you move in, you've got an electric bill. Your electricity's turned on, your water's turned on, stuff like that. Not saying pay for it, but just help him through the process because he's not familiar with America enough to know that these things needed to be done. But no, instead we get tweets from Takeshita talking about, falling asleep on the floor in the dark and wondering if he made the right decision. And then in subsequent interviews talking about how he really wasn't happy. Of course, now Tony gave him a belt. So he's like, here's a belt. Here, I gave you a win over my favorite action figure. So go over there now and shut up. Because, gee, it's funny. Isn't it funny? Sorry, tangent. Isn't it fucking hilarious? Apologies, just had some issues there and realized my mic was unplugged and the camera froze. So sorry for that clip. But anyways, I was saying, isn't it funny that when the belt was being contested over by Orange Cassidy, every week he was on Dynamite. When the belt became the program for MJF and Will Ospreay, it was highly regarded. MJF got to make a custom belt of it. It was on Wembley, blah, blah, blah. The moment Takeshita wins it, meh. Now we're not going to talk about it because now the Continental belt's the way to go. That's where that the eggs are all in that basket. So here we are back to square one. I apologize to anyone who's your audio just changed. The new cam wasn't picking up this microphone. It was using that one. Sorry about that. Now it's fixed. So anyways, but that's not the big issue. The big issue and the reason I decided that it was time for me to do another episode was because I got tired of typing. I got so tired of typing. Even voice to text, you get tired of it. Because, yeah. So for those of you unaware, and I know most of you are unaware, outside of wrestling, I've held quite a few jobs. There's been a few stints in my professional life where I have worked for major corporations and government affiliated organizations in the healthcare field. I will not name names. I will let you know that I handled FMLA claims for Fortune 500 companies in a building that had a giant Snoopy in it. Figure it out for yourself. I got my property and casualty license at the age of 19. I worked on the healthcare exchange for my state for many years. And not just data entry. I was what they would call a liaison. I was the one who they would have play the broker when the broker wasn't available because of my knowledge. I was good at my job. So, why do I bring this up? Well, because everyone wants to jump on the other post Ray Fenix made about I wanted to see a doctor for a year and you wouldn't let me. And I've dealt with some stupidity when it came to this. So, let me spell it out for some people. Ray Fenix is a professional wrestler who is working in the United States under a work visa. The classification of that work visa is either H2 or P1. Most likely this first one I said because P1 is more reserved for Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, federally recognized leagues. AEW is considered an entertainment company and privately owned. They don't have shareholders to answer to. So because he is here on one of those visas, he doesn't qualify for medical insurance in the United States. That's something no one seems to think about. If you were here on an H1 visa, which is one of those scholar visas where you have a degree in a certain area, whether you're an engineer or healthcare, yada, yada, or whatever, and you come over here on a work visa, you can get health insurance with an H1. That's the caveat. And at least it is for now. Who knows what's going to happen after January? That's a rant for another day. He is here as a Mexican citizen. He cannot go back to Mexico for more than maybe a week, if that, I think, because he's on a work visa. And if he stays back in Mexico, he loses his ability to work in the U.S. Tony Khan isn't using him and says he plans on not using him. But he still has to keep that option of having that work visa open in case Tony Khan says, I decided to use him this week. That's his whole thing is you're here for a work visa for a certain company. You're expecting to get work from that company. Now people say, oh, but he's getting paid to stay at home. He's getting paid to stay at home. Let me tell you something. First off, we don't know how much he's getting paid. I mean, I'm sure it's not peanuts, but you need to factor in that this is an individual who does not have health insurance and can't get health insurance. Hi, worked for the healthcare exchange. You cannot get insurance. He could try to file a drastic appeals process in order to qualify, but he would need lawyers for that. And he would have to fight to see. And I guarantee it would take longer than the amount of time that's left on his work visa. And then let's just say he is eligible. You can't just walk on and grab insurance anytime you want. You have to do it during the open enrollment period. And that's something, slight rant. I always would see wrestlers talking about, I don't have health insurance. I don't have health insurance. The ACA has been in practice for years. You could get health insurance. You just didn't want to pay for health insurance. I get, like people starting these GoFundMes because they're like, my surgery is this much. Where's your health insurance? If you went and bought a, the lowest tier plan and you have a $15,000 deductible, that's on you. Like, especially if you're working somewhere like AEW where you can afford to go and get on the healthcare exchange. But that's neither here nor there. Here's a guy who can't. Here's a guy who cannot get insurance in the United States. The night when he snapped his leg, I guarantee you this is what happened. The backstage trainer there, and people are like, well, there's doctors on hand there. Those are just hired per diem doctors. They don't have private practice. Like, not they're set up in that's not what people think. Oh, there's a doctor on site. Like, people are so fucking stupid. These idiots from middle America that they don't understand what a doctor is, let alone what medical insurance is. There's a doctor there. No, that's a sports medicine doctor who's there to make sure that you don't have a concussion. Of course, in AEW, we know that they don't even do that right. Okay, Rey Fenix has a broken leg. Call the ambulance. Ambulance brings him to the local hospital. Wheel him in on a stretcher. That ambulance ride with no insurance, that just costs you about $25,000. Now you wheel him in. He's in the ER. Patient doesn't have insurance. Not a U.S. citizen here on a work visa. Patient does not have insurance. Well, we got to do x-rays to see if it's broken. Those x-rays are going to cost you thousands of dollars. And then, okay, it's broken. Patient doesn't have insurance. Well, you're going to be paying out of pocket for this whole thing. So we are going to give you a cast on your leg, and then we are going to sell you a pair of crutches. You go to someone's yard sale, they got old crutches from the last time they sprained their ankle or something. Here, $5. Yeah, and you know how much a hospital charges for those? A couple grand. Here's some crutches. Have fun. Send him out the door because he doesn't have insurance, so he can't do anything. And so then you have Rey Fenix sitting at home now with without a doubt, almost $100,000 bill for a broken leg without insurance, because welcome to the United States healthcare system. Okay, you know something? I'll back it up. But let's be generous. Let's say $50,000. Let's lowball it, which I guarantee was way more. Because when you have no insurance, you're paying for everything out of pocket. And especially, and here's the thing too, like nowadays with the ACA, if you were to go into a place and you didn't have insurance, say you didn't have a job, you didn't have insurance, they have Medicaid agents there who will get you signed on Medicaid right away. It's retroactive for the first of the month. You're covered. If you go in and you have a job and you don't have insurance and it's your voluntary thing, you're paying out of pocket. That's the way it is. That's the way it's always has been. Who knows if that'll ever change? That's a story for another day. So let's say he's got 50 grand in debt for this broken leg. Now he's sitting home with a broken leg. You can't go see a primary care doctor because no one's going to take you if you don't have insurance. Without a primary care doctor, you can't get referred to an orthopedic surgeon. What if this bone doesn't set right? Yeah, I got a cast on. What if the bone doesn't set right? And then when it's time for the cast to come off, you need someone to cut it off. I mean, granted, maybe the sports medicine doctor on hand that day at Dynamite can do it, but how are you going to get back and forth with a broken leg? You need transportation to do it. He didn't have a light injury. He snapped his fucking leg. It's never going to be the same ever again. And then once the cast comes off, personal experience, you're going to need physical therapy and rehab because you broke your fucking leg and you're in an occupation where you're on your feet the whole time, where you're running, where you're jumping off ropes, where you're diving. That just doesn't snap back to. But guess what? You don't have insurance, so you don't have physical therapy. You got this company that claims it cares about its wrestlers and lied from day one about giving them insurance. And I can pull up the articles to show you. In fact, I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to be a dick, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to pull up this article because people don't seem to want to believe me, but I keep it bookmarked for just the occasion. Share screen. Share. This is from February 11th of 2019. So literally when the company was just starting. All Elite Wrestling wanted to make a big deal in Jacksonville on Tuesday. Therefore, they said a lot and promised to change the wrestling economy. It was said that this change is going to include health insurance. However, it doesn't look like this will be all-inclusive. The Wrestling Observer newsletter says that only a few executives will actually be covered. It is known that Cody Rhodes, Brandy Rhodes, the Young Bucks are performers who are covered under the health plan. This is said to be the same health insurance as all Jacksonville Jaguars associates. So basically, the EVPs got insurance. People with producer credit probably have insurance. People like Pat Buck or people who have creative control like Jericho and Moxley probably have health insurance through it. But yeah, that's it. AEW said they were offering health insurance. They didn't. Lies. So you got this guy who's sitting home, doesn't know how to recover, in a cast for God knows how long, begging HR to help him out with getting medical assistance. And Tony Khan ignored him. You fucking morons don't realize. You don't realize that when you're not a U.S. citizen, you can't just walk into a fucking doctor's office. If you don't have insurance, you can't just walk into a fucking doctor's office and say, I need this. It doesn't fucking work that way. So, yeah, sure. He sat home getting paid. He also sat home with an injury that's going to affect him the rest of his life, with a hospital bill that I guarantee was a good chunk of his annual salary. that he's still paying off. And now he's not being used. And we don't know how bad, because he didn't have physical therapy and all that stuff. People like, oh, wow, look, this guy snapped back so quick. Yeah, it's because like in WWE, they have the best fucking shit money can buy. You go see the sports medicine doctor in Alabama. He helps you out. You get on a physical therapy plan. You fucking, they help you out. AEW ain't got that. They don't care. Tony's there to collect action figures. That's it. Whether you want to believe that or not, that's up to that's your fucking prerogative. But no. So people out here bagging on Ray Fenix, like, you're getting paid to stay home, blah, blah. And they were the same people, once again, that were on this Free Ali movement, who wanted Brody Lee let out of his contract, yada, yada. You're fucking hypocrites. It's extenuating circumstances that people who have not worked in these fields will never understand. No matter how much you try to explain it, they'll refuse to understand. They will walk around in circles trying to get. I literally pointed all this out to a guy, and his response was, they have a doctor on site. Because he doesn't understand how shit works. What was hilarious was the fucker said that he had expertise in the medical field. Check his profile. He's a fucking tow truck driver. I don't know how the fuck. I don't know how the fuck that works. Like, hi, sorry, but I have worked in property and casualty. I have worked in health insurance. I've worked for the Health Insurance Exchange. I've worked doing FMLA claims. And, oh yeah, I've dealt with all of this stuff in my personal life too. I can tell you what shit costs when you don't have insurance, both from that end and from this end. Because I pay attention to when I get my bills. Yes, I have coverage, but I pay attention to what it would cost without it. You need to realize that an IV drip of saline, stuff you can buy in the store, clean rooms, medical saline, an IV bag of saline, if you don't have insurance, is over $1,000. For saline. That's what happens. Because they're expecting the insurance companies to cover it. So you've got this poor guy who's going through a lot more than you want to think. I feel bad for Ray Fenix. Like, and I'm sure Penta is doing everything he can, but it kind of sucks too, because Penta was a singles guy before AEW. Like, yeah, he did singles, he did tags and stuff, but I mean, for the most part, Penta was big in Lucha Underground. He was champion in Impact. Like, Pentagon's going to do okay on his own. By the time Phoenix's contract is up and is able to be picked up, who knows if WWE is going to have interest at that point. And that's the long-term thing you need to look at in this, is Tony Khan's only holding him back because he knows there might be interest by WWE. It's funny. In 2019, there was this thing going on. There was this thing where Vince wasn't releasing people, and he was signing people so the AEW couldn't have them. At least that's what I heard. I don't know. But now, you look at AEW and it's mostly ex-WWE guys and some of their homegrown people who will never draw a fucking dime. Yay. Speaking on their product, that'll take me in a whole thing, but I really wanted to talk about Starks and Phoenix. That's all I really wanted to talk about in this episode, because people don't seem to understand about what's going on. Tony Khan is purposely holding these people back so that way they will lose value. So when they do become free agents, they're not nearly as enticing to the WWE. That's all he's doing. I mean, Ricky Starks, he's on the wrong side. He's on the wrong side of 30. So to see if they're seeing that, okay, well, Ethan Page got a job in NXT, so there's a possibility. Okay. Ray Fenix if WWE were to sign him, he needs to get citizenship because the work visa thing ain't gonna pull it. Like WWE has that kind of corporate structure where if you're a foreign talent, they make sure like you at least they help you get dual citizenship so that way they don't have to worry about your work visa expiring. They put in that effort. That's another reason I guarantee you Miro hasn't been seen on AEW in months. Not only the fact he doesn't want to go, but they probably fucked up and didn't say shit about his work visa and it expired. So he's sitting there going, I don't care. Or if that's not the case, I'm like, he might have dual citizenship because he was in WWE. So that's a good possibility. So maybe that's why he's just in Bulgaria. And he could be pulling the fleece over Tony Khan's eyes going, no, man, my work visa's up. I can't come. He's being smart. He knows it's a sinking ship. He knows it's a shit show. He doesn't want any part of it. So yeah, that's where we're at. For those of you who want to act like you know everything about everything, you don't. You don't understand how the real world works. You sit there and fantasy book wrestling and think that that's everything that these people are. And that's everything that they encompass. You don't look at them like they're real people. And you don't look at them like they have real people problems. Medical insurance is a bitch. It has been in this country for over 50 years. We used to have a different vibe, and then things kind of changed in the 70s. And we've been trying to fix it ever since. But when you've got someone, not a citizen, can't get insurance, they get fucked, and you're sitting here going, oh, it's not my problem. Well, then I don't want to hear shit. I don't want to hear shit anymore. If you start a GoFundMe because you didn't have health insurance, you can go fuck yourself. Because that's an option you have that Ray Fenix doesn't have. Plain and simple. So yeah, that's all I got. Short episode, I guess. Short. I don't know. Damn, I almost went an hour. Whatever. It is what it is. Like I said, I'm going to the SmackDown taping on Friday. We know Saturday night's main event is coming up on Saturday. Maybe I'll cobble together a crew and we'll talk about it next week. I'm not promising anything, but maybe it could. Who knows? But yeah. So this is Joseph J. Alexander signing off with another episode of White Heat Redux. You can follow me on Blue Sky. That's the ID on the left, or on Twitter/X. That's my ID on the right. Also make sure to like and subscribe, because you never know when one of these episodes is going to pop up. Make sure you subscribe to the Full Circle Radio Network Facebook page. It's in the details below. And hey, while you're here, give some of our other shows on here a chance. Wildcard Cinema, we're about to have the season finale in a week. So yeah, come on out and check that shit out. But yeah, that's all I got. JJ Alexander signing off. Take it easy.